Now, inasmuch as creating a shape is a pretty easy thing to do, there are a few things you need to be aware of. Stuff that you should take into consideration as you're drawing on the screen. First off, because the viewport that you use to create your shape does make a difference, think about that before clicking with the mouse. For example, if you create a circle in the top view, once converted to 3D, it's going to stand up straight in your scene, like this flagpole, or maybe this soda can. Now, that same circle made in, let's say, the front view would lie flat or parallel to the floor, like, let's say, this sewer pipe, or these rolling pins. So think about which direction, which viewport, in other words, you ought to be making your shape in before doing so. Yeah, it's not all that tough to correctly rotate things into position if you get it wrong, but why waste the time and effort if all you have to do is to think about what you're doing first? You know, it's so important at all points during the game to work as smart and as efficiently as possible. It's one thing to waste your own time working on your own personal stuff, but think about how an employer would see that. Here you are taking twice as much time as you need to simply because you didn't think it through first. Now, I know it might not seem like a big thing, but you do it enough, those unnecessary steps, and it certainly does add up. Another thing you want to keep in mind is that in almost every situation, overlapping lines in a shape spell disaster. So when drawing, try your best to stay away from lines that intersect or in some way cross over. We'll be looking at examples of what happens in situations like that throughout our working together. Just be sure to take a good look at how you're drawing your shapes before attempting to make them 3D. And there's one last issue that might come up from time to time, and it deals with the transformation gizmo that pops up when you're working on something. You know, 99% of the time, the gizmo comes in pretty handy. It really is what you use to keep your bearings straight, but there are a few examples where it actually gets in the way, making life a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. Let me show you an example of that. I've got a file for this example. Let's go ahead and do a file open. Working in Chapter 3, let's choose Hide Gizmo. Very good. Now, the visibility issue with a gizmo actually, I think, pertains most to when you're working at the vertex level and trying to adjust one of the Bezier handles. Let's do this. Let's select the line. We'll go into the Modify column, choose Vertex, and let's Windows select one of the vertices. Now, I'm going to go to my Move command. Now, you'll notice that neither of the handles actually lines up to the sticks of the gizmo, so they'll freely move from side to side. If I go ahead and Windows select the vertex on the left-hand side, same thing holds true, not a problem. Now watch what happens instead with the one at the bottom. See how the Bezier handle on the right actually lines up to the X direction of the gizmo? Now you know what's going to happen. When I put my mouse on top of that Bezier handle, look at that. I'm turning off the direction of being able to go up and down. You see this? So watch what happens. When I push my mouse up and down, I can't adjust the Bezier handle in that direction. Certainly I can go left to right, but it's the up and down that I've kind of locked myself out of. So in this particular instance, the gizmo is actually getting in my way. Now, one way we can turn the gizmo off is to go to the Views pull-down menu and simply choose Show Transform Gizmo. We turn that off in this case. There's a keyboard shortcut, a lot easier to use. Let's do that instead. I simply want you to hit X. So there we go. The gizmo has been hidden. Notice, though, that the Y stick has still been turned off. So if I try to now move this Bezier handle, again, no luck. There's a keyboard shortcut to be able to break that, to be able to turn both handles back on. F8 is what you want to type there. Let's do that. Very good. Now you can see they're both on. Now I can freely move this from side to side. So here's a situation where the gizmo actually got in our way. If you think you're going to be locking down your Bezier handle by going on top of the gizmo stick, just hit X beforehand and you can hide that. Now, have you ever been confused by the terms edit spline and editable spline? They're kind of the same, but they're kind of not the same too. Do you really know the difference between the two? We're going to take a look at that in our next video. Let's check it out.